News. We are live from Joy 99.7 FM in Accra, Love 99.5 in Kumasi, and affiliates across Ghana, including Kalio FM, Akachi Radio Wa in Wa, ATL FM Cape Coast. Download the My Joy Online app from the Play Store and App Store to listen live on the internet. Coming up. Residents of Onyinan Nofo in the Ashanti region thrown into a state of mourning as tanker explosion killed at least 3 people and reduced 10 houses to ashes. Police is blaming a wrongly parked Ford Transit van for the accident. We are live on the ground as police invite the van driver for questioning and NADMO assesses the damage to support victims. Also, former Special Prosecutor Martin Amido alleges that NDC MPs entered into an agreement to approve President Akufo-Addo's nominees in exchange for non-prosecution for taking double salaries. We have details, plus hear from the minority leader who yesterday opened up on the ministerial approvals. He insists documents required to approve the ministers were obtained.
All those documents were formally brought to me, satisfying that condition.
We'll also bring you the latest as Parliament reconvenes today. Also questions about the outcome of a government investigation into alleged corruption in the procurement of the $510 million Mary Power Plant by the Mahama administration as Ghana prepares to take ownership. Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who says the deal was above board in sports.
We'll hear from the Ghana Football Association's referee manager Alex Cote, who insists referees were given adequate training before the commencement of the Ghana Premier League second round.
And on what authorities are doing for the region to win its first NSMQ trophy after 28 years.
All of us are rallying behind our schools, especially the schools that will qualify to the national level, to support them strongly. Within
Qualification contest underway in Ho. Thank you for choosing us. We are home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Residents of Onyinan Nofo in the Ashanti region thrown into a state of mourning as a tanker exploded. Children are yet to be found after the accident involving the Kumasi Tepa-bound vehicle. Love FM's Nanaya Ojima has more in the following report. Well, while we wait to bring you that report, Nanaya Ojima joins us live from the town. He's gone there this morning and we'll be reaching him for an update. But here's the report on the incident.
Kwame Asare, who lost balance while speeding and drove into a parked Ford Transit van before it caught fire. The tanker driver lost control and drove into the van. The tanker skidded into the village. The fire started immediately. Killed in the incident. He was outside his home as the toddler slept at the time of the incident. But for his condition, he could have saved his son. The whole of the left part of my body is numb. I can't carry the child. It was between saving myself and perishing with him. Later, someone offered to carry me on his back to take me to safety. The fire service intervened to control the spread of the inferno. ADO
preventing the fire from, affecting the other structures that were, nearby. So that was the strategy we used. So when we were able to successfully contain or control the spread, then we came back to the container, to the tanker, and then put out the fire.
At the time of the incident, many were out on their farms. Children who were home ran into bushes and other communities for safety. At the time of filing this report, 3 children remained missing. Residents are disturbed.
The
They went separate ways, so we have to move in all directions to find them. Has been to the scene, assessing the damage. Together with the district assembly, Some arrangements were made for the affected persons to pass the night. Eric Nanajiman Prempe is Director General.
He is here. He's going back to the district capital to arrange for some mosquito nets and some blankets for them. I have called NADMO headquarters. They are also arranging to get some mattresses and other things. By tomorrow morning, they will also be here. We are doing the little we can to help the people who are homeless. In fact, apart from the Cheese Palace and few places, almost everybody has been rendered homeless now.
For Joy News.
This morning, Nanaya, we understand the police is attributing the tanker explosion to a wrongly parked Ford Transit van. You've been speaking to the crime officer, Superintendent Vincent Adote. What more?
So we parked in the lane of this tanker driver, which resulted in the accident that we saw yesterday. So let's listen to Mr. Adote.
We are still on our investigation, but what we had preliminary is that the Ford Transit driver was moving from Tepa towards Mankranso, and he parked in the opposite lane. Whilst it was about to move, the fuel tanker also appeared from Kumasi direction towards Tepa, and in order to save the situation somehow, they had a crash which caused the Ford Transit vehicle to be dragged to the opposite, to its main lane facing the town. And we can say with confidence that, in fact, the fault would have come from the Ford Transit driver.
That was Superintendent Vincent Adote. Nanayao, have the 3 missing children been found?
So from what I've been gathering this morning, late last night, the community members who were dispatched to search for these kids were able to find them in the bushes and brought them back home. So though I didn't see the kids, according to the community members, they are all doing well.
And what is the condition of those who were injured?
So from my investigations at the hospitals they were taken to, all of them have been discharged. The hospital, one of the hospitals, is still keeping just one person, and they are hoping that by tomorrow morning that person will also be discharged.
Beyond offering a place for the affected residents to sleep, what other assistance did NADMO offer?
So about 30 minutes ago, the National Director for the National Disaster Management Organization, Nanajiman Prempe, and his entourage visited the scene for the second time, and they came along with some mattresses, food items, clothing, and others for these people. And also, what I know is that they came with 20 packets of roofing sheets. They've all been delivered to the people, and we're hoping that this will be sort of relief for them.
And I, Aljima, they're joining us from the Ashanti region town of Onyinanofo, where a tanker explosion killed 3 and injured 7 other people. Away from that, former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu alleges that NDC MPs entered into an agreement to approve President Akufo-Addo's nominees in exchange for non-prosecution for taking double salaries. He alleges that then Attorney General Gloria Akufo and Director of Public Prosecution Yvonne Atakra Obuobisa, after perusing the police document, minister led to deep-seated cracks within the ranks of the NDC amid allegations some agreement had been entered into government on the matter. Here are extracts from a statement issued by the former Special Prosecutor.
Imano Amakofibua, Nilai Afote Agbo, Comfort Doyo Ganza, among others, were interrogated by the police CID for allegedly receiving double salaries. Mr. Amidu says credible information he received on the case indicates that the then Attorney General and Director of Public Prosecution had both perused the case docket and had come to the conclusion that charges be filed against some of the suspects for prosecution. The AG he alleges was instructed not to do so by the President, who he says unconscious. Mr. Amidu claims there has been a reportage in some sections of the media alleging it was his failure to deal with the matter matter that has resulted in non-prosecution of the MPs. He insists he never dealt with any case related to the matter while in office. Mr. Amidu further alleges that the non-prosecution of the NDC MPs was used as a leverage for the MPs to be compelled to approve all the president's nominees for ministerial positions, despite the fact that approval for some was pending as the appointment committee had requested for additional information.
You heard extracts of the latest epistle by former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu, while Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu was asked by my colleague Evans Mensah what influenced the approval of Keno Foriata, especially when the NDC MPs had demanded some documents. Listen to what he had to say on PM Express last night.
I can share what I know with you, and you can go back to the parliamentary Hansard, which is a contract with GRA. And I simply just cannot understand why Mackenzie should be engaged. I mean, Ghanaian tax experts are capable of doing what they are doing. Then two, one of our colleagues strongly raised that we needed reconciliation to understand the public interest accountability PIAC report of an outstanding 20, I may not get a figure right because I don't have the document here, of some unexplained that PIAC, indeed, to quote the letter, even though I don't have it here, we're told that 7th of April, there will be engagement between the Ministry of Finance and PIAC to have an understanding to work on those issues. The third issue we requested for was recruitment into the field. So we needed to understand how some of them got into the ministry. There is official communication to me prior to his approval that
so you were happy with the responses you got?
No, I'm not done yet. Myself and the chairman will co-edit it, even though it's largely a function of chairman. But because Parliament is a transparent institution, I get to see the report that I could get that material evidence. So officially, all those documents were formally brought to me, satisfying that.
The Vetting Committee of Parliament has already begun thorough background checks on Special Prosecutor nominee Kisie Jabing. The checks, according to the Swami MP, are to establish the eligibility.
Parliament to expedite action by giving the sensitive position. We also want Parliament to do a thorough job in the background of the person to establish the fact that he has the competence, the qualification, the eligibility. We want to see a thorough job done by Parliament on the nominee by the President.
So for now, we don't have a date for when he will be vetted by the committee?
It is not for me to establish the date. It's for the committee to establish their own date. And as I indicated, the chairman and some of the senior members are outside the jurisdiction. So they would, upon their return, establish the date for the special prosecutor.
From the grapevine, you are told that the minority is upset and unhappy with the appointment of Kisie Jabing as the special.
It's not competent.
Majority Leader say Chairman Sabonsu speaking to my colleague Chrissy Parker Wilson there. You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Bernice Abube Dulansa. Now, a member of Parliament on the ticket of the opposition NDC, David Vondi, has pleaded not guilty to the charge of fraud levelled against him by the Office of the Attorney General. He was dragged to the High Court for allegedly defrauding a private company of $2.4 million. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins us with more. Now, we understand this was a business transaction, Joseph.
Yes, in fact, the land in dispute is located at Frafraha in the Adentan municipality in the Greater Accra region. We are told that he had indicated to the company that he owned the land and wanted to sell the land to the company. Investigations, according to prosecutors, showed later that the said lands did not belong to the MP. So the company now demanded the money from him, and once he was unable to provide that money, they reported the matter to the police. The AG investigated the matter and found that indeed the land did not belong to him and decided to charge him with fraud as well as money laundering.
Tell us more about the MP's request for bail, which was granted by the court.
His lawyers, led by Edujita Maklo, told the court that so far since this particular matter came up in the offices of the AG, he has been cooperating with investigations and is willing to show up anytime he is needed. The court granted him bail in a sum of 2 million cedis with 2 sureties, and the case has been adjourned to for case management conference to take place. The point is being made that his passport should also be made available to the court, and the court has also handed the prosecutors a month to do all the required disclosures in order for the trial.
After several weeks of recess, the second meeting is expected to consider 5 bills, including a law that is expected to strengthen the fight against illegal mining. The legislative arm of government is also to commence the vetting of the President's deputy ministerial nominees. My colleague Kwesi Parker Wilson joins us on the line with an update. What's happening on the first day, Parker?
Okay, so for now, the speaker just entered and he is welcoming the members of parliament. In fact, he read a communication from the presidency on the nomination of the deputy minister designate who will be vetted on June 2. And so that is what is currently going on at the moment. And the minority, just before Parliament started, actually held the press conference. And this is particularly about the road sector. The ranking on the road committee, Kwame Agbaja, indicated to us that the government cannot deliver on the promises it made as far as the construction of the 20 interchanges are concerned at the end of 2024. The point he makes is that contractors haven't been paid. And again, if you look at the budgetary allocation for the road minister for this particular year, it is woefully inadequate to finance the...
But we shall not support government to increase road tolls unless government is able to decap road fund, give all that money to the road ministry, and then we can discuss the gap that will be left. Until that time, they cannot get the support of our side of the house to increase road tolls. The ministry have approved. The MPP government awards projects where 1 kilometer is sometimes $2 million. So if you're going to build 6,000 kilometers, at what rate? And where are the roads supposed to be going to? In effect, the 1 billion Ghana cedis that is available as capital investment.
Kwame Agbaja is ranking member on Parliament's Roads Committee. Now, the NDC minority in Parliament witnessed major turbulence and cracks within its ranks in the first meeting during consideration of the party's communications officer, Sami Jemfi, in a Facebook post. Member of Parliament for North Tong, Samuel Okujoto-Ablakwa, also resigned from the Appointments Committee, citing personal issues. But it's believed he did so in protest against the approval of the finance minister. Ken spoke to my colleague Evans Mensah on PM Express.
I just didn't become minority leader. I've been member of parliament for Tamale South. It's a seat that I hold strongly and dear, and I'll continue to preserve and protect it for the NDC, even if I decide to whistle out in the foreseeable future. But to say that some abuses and insults, mine is that time a better judge.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, the Parliament's primary role, aside making laws, is to provide. A 3-time MP is unconvinced about how Parliament has performed in that regard. Addressing the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa, he called on Parliament to build its capacity for effective oversight.
We often underestimate the importance of Parliament and consequently undermine its work. We cannot emphasize enough the role of Parliament in exercising the checks and balances needed on the executive. We cannot emphasize enough the role of Parliament as the voice of the people, and we cannot emphasize enough the role of Parliament in setting the tone of public discourse in the country.
President Akufo-Addo there. You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Still to come, questions about the outcome of a government investigation into alleged corruption in the procurement of the $510 million Ameri power plant by the Mahama administration as Ghana prepares to take ownership.
The issue of the Ameri power deal is one episode of issues bordering on corruption and the failure to ensure value for money.
We'll hear from the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor. Do stay.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the Eastern region, we're on K-Poly Radio in Kofrodia. In the Northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga, and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sonmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nando, Kingdom, Radio Wa in Wa and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrot FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thank you for staying here on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM. It's now time for sports with Hans.
Thank you, Benes. And one of the major talking points in the second round of the Ghana Premier League has been officiating, with a number of referees falling foul to questionable decision. Manager Alex Cote insists referees were given adequate training before the commencement of the Ghana Premier League second round.
It is practical work. How do you anticipate where the ball will go next? It is practical. So after reading and anticipating, how do you now begin to move? Do you have to move before the ball, or all that? So we took them through a serious practical work, 3 days in Pram for each group, and they all attested to the fact that yes, they think that for this course it was better than all the courses that they have had. And so we prayed. It is rather unfortunate that in fact, we knew that the league was starting 2 weeks, when it broke the first time. Then it was postponed for another 2 weeks again. And so that actually took somebody would say the vim out of them, because we prepared in the way that right from Pram they were going into the game. Okay, and so after Pram 2-3 weeks had elapsed, and we don't know what they are doing back home.
Alex Cote is the Ghana Football Association's referees chief, and England manager Gary Southgate has named a provisional 33-man squad for Euro 2020. It includes Manchester United's injured centre-back Harry Maguire, and also includes Oli Watkins, but it excludes Aaron Wan-Bissaka. More on that later in our subsequent bulletins.
Thanks, Hans. And it's been more than 4 years since allegations of fraud and underhand dealings were made in the AmeriPower agreement. The 250-megawatt power plant was procured in 2016 to augment Ghana's electricity generation at the height of the energy crisis under the John Mahama administration. Amid allegations that it was overpriced by $150 million, the Akufo-Addo administration had pledged to investigate it. Though the agreement was eventually reviewed, government is yet to say what crime. Total recall.
The AmeriPower agreement was one of those deals the New Patriotic Party, then in opposition, said was tainted with it generates over a period of 5 years. Dr. Baumia, who was then running mate to candidate Akufo-Addo, argued why the contract at $510 million was overpriced.
The issue of the AmeriPower deal is one episode of issues bordering on corruption and the failure to ensure value for money for the people of Ghana.
On assumption of power in 2017, President Akufo-Addo, in his first State of the Nation address, announced a review of all power purchase agreements, including the Ameri deal.
Government is conducting a review of all the power agreements entered into by the previous government in order to prioritize, renegotiate, defer or cancel outright if necessary in the national interest.
A committee chaired by Philip Addison, which looked at the deal and traveled to the United Arab Emirates, concluded in 2017 that it should be renegotiated because it was overpriced by about $150 million. The police in July of 2017 visited the homes of some officials believed to have knowledge of the Ameri agreement in search of documents relating to the deal. The Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service at the time, David Aklu, explained the CID officers had visited on a court order to look for evidence to find out if someone was culpable.
What we did was to execute a warrant or a court order to search his premises to look for evidence in relation to an issue that the police wants to find out whether somebody is culpable or not.
It's been 5 years since Ghana procured the Ameri plant, which also means that it is time for ownership to revert to the country. Joy News is learning the government has also initiated.
While former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who was also a subject of investigation, says government's failure to prove allegations of wrongdoing in the procurement of the power plant affirms his position that the deal was honest. He spoke to Israel Ai, who first asked if he'd been charged.
Officially, no. I've followed up, and to the best of my knowledge, they didn't find anything incriminating. There was absolutely no criminality all the decisions were above board.
Former Power Minister Dr. Kwabena Donko there. Now, no school from the Volta region has won the National Science and Maths Quiz Trophy since its inception 28 years ago. There's a burning desire to win the ultimate prize, as Chief of Sugakotha, Togbi Hue Chali III, says authorities in the region are doing everything within their power to end the drought. In an interview with Joy News on the sidelines of the Volta OT Regional Qualification Contest in Ho, he stated an NSMQ trophy for the region will generate the much-needed income.
How do you feel about this?
It's a sad news for us for all these years that Volta hasn't. For this year, all heads, the school, the region, the two regions, the regional.
That's Chief of Sokwe, rather, not Sugakope, Sokwe, Togbi Foy Charlie III. It's now time for Showbiz with Mapito.
And in Showbiz, popular Ghanaian high-life musician and guitarist Kwab been bashing him, so you can go to Twitter and check that out.
Thank you, Maps, and that's how we end this edition of the Midday News here on Joe 99.7 FM. Our top story, residents of Onyinan Nofo in the Ashanti region thrown into a state of mourning as tanker explosion van for the accident. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Do stay. Dr. Mensur Tabel is up next with Living Word.
Speaking to Miss Joanna Kuma.
Yes, please.
My name is Philip and I'm calling
to everything. No.